Okay, our next speaker will be Olivia Simmons. Olivia is a postdoctoral researcher, also at NINA, the Norwegian Institute for Nature Research. Her work is focused on fish ecology and specifically on aspects of salmonid growth and behavior. She earned her PhD from Bournemouth University in Iceland. She will share her work now on the behavior of post-spawned Atlantic salmon migrating past a hydropower dam.
Thank you. This is the clicker. Great. Thank you for that introduction. So like Abe said, I want to talk a little bit about the behavior of post-spawned Atlantic salmon, which are usually referred to as kelts, migrating past a hydropower dam. I think I have a small head. It keeps falling off.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, let me know if you can't hear me. So I'm going to start with a little bit of an overview about kelts and about some of the threats that they can face when trying to migrate past hydropower dams. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about a project that we've started to try to learn more about them migrating in hydropower regulated rivers. So without further ado, like I said, kelt is another term for post-spawned Atlantic salmon. Atlantic salmon are born in freshwater, and they undergo a marine migration as juveniles. They go to sea to feed loads, and during this migration, they're called smolts. At sea, they feed lots, they grow lots, and they return to freshwater to spawn as adults. After spawning, in some Atlantic salmon populations, many fish can survive, and they can undergo a second marine migration. And this is when we call them kelts, when they're migrating downstream in the river to go back to sea to recondition after spawning. And in some populations, kelt can be really important because they can become repeat spawners. So instead of spawning just once during their lifetime, they can spawn multiple times. And this is important because repeat spawners tend to be much larger than first-time spawners, and so this means they have a higher fecundity. So basically, the females can produce more eggs when they are bigger than the smaller first-time spawners. And it's also thought that they might make important genetic contributions to populations, because if you're sort of fit and able to survive multiple marine migrations, you might be able to confer that fitness onto the next generation. And in populations where there's multiple cohorts, so multiple generations of spawners, you sort of have a backup plan. If the first time spawners aren't as numerous, you've got the repeat spawners to ensure that there's another generation. So they can be quite important, but they're sort of one of the least studied life stages of Atlantic salmon. And so we know a little bit about ways they might be affected by hydropower, and I'll highlight some of those now. So one of the first things is that they can experience migration delays as they're migrating downstream from their spawning sites to go back to sea. And a study in Canada showed that they swim much slower through reservoirs than they do through free-flowing stretches of the river. And so this can add time to the migration. It takes longer for them to get back to sea. Additionally, they can have trouble finding safe passage routes, and this sort of varies case by case depending on if there are downstream passage solutions available to them. What this means is that they can experience high levels of energy depletion. So after spawning, they sort of have used up a lot of their energy reserves, and for every day that they get delayed trying to return to sea, they continue to use energy reserves, and this can have negative consequences for subsequent survival. So in addition to migration delays, of course, they can also get injured or even die when they're trying to pass hydropower dams from things like turbine strikes, but also from impingement at these facilities. And in a study in Sweden where they tracked a number of kelts migrating downstream in an area where there were 8 hydropower plants, they found that fewer and fewer made it past each one. So mortality can be cumulative as well in these types of systems. But like I said, there's still quite a lot that we don't know about kelts, particularly as they migrate past hydropower plants. And so we've started a project called the Kelt to Sea Project to try to fill in some of the knowledge gaps that exist in this field. And so some of the goals for the project is to better understand their swimming behavior, and this is in relation to hydraulic variables, because hydropower facilities can alter the hydraulic conditions in a river, and also to better understand their swimming behavior in the vicinity of different hydropower structures like intake racks. And then we hope to be able to better predict their swimming behavior based on different hydraulic conditions. And this will be quite useful in the hydropower industry because it can help to better inform ways to develop cost-effective measures for their downstream migration. And so we've got data coming in from some different streams, but I want to talk a little bit about some of the field data that we're working with. This is a picture of the Svorkmo hydropower plant with the Bjorset Dam, which is in the River Orkla, not too far from here. The dam has 4 spillways. Over winter, all 4 of these spillways are closed, but from May 1st, one of the spillways, sort of on the northern side of the dam, gets opened. It's opened about 40%. A couple days later, it's opened further to 60%, and a couple days after that to 70%. There's also 2 fish ladders. Only one is operated during the winter time, and there's a hydropower intake about 100 meters upstream of the dam. And so in April 2016, 48 Atlantic salmon kelts were tagged with acoustic tags. So basically these tags have a unique identifier, so you can tell the different kelts apart. And in the river, you see all these red dots. These are acoustic receivers. So they're like listening devices that can hear where the tags are. And you can use this data to position the kelts every 2.5 seconds in this part of the river. And so then you can construct tracks like these. This is sort of the path that a kelt took during the study period. The gray point is where it started, and the black point is where it ended. And you can see it sort of moves from upstream, which is bluer, towards the downstream, which is redder. We also have some hydraulic data from CFD modeling. So for the different positions in the river, we know the water velocity as well as some different measures of turbulence. And now we're working to sort of couple the hydraulic data with the biological data, the tracks, to sort of see how the hydraulics affect where they're swimming. So this is the same track as before, and it's now overlaid on the section of the river for which we have the hydraulic data. And the different colors, the warmer colors are faster water velocities, and the colder colors are slower. So just very quickly, some preliminary results, because a lot of this work is still ongoing and we're still developing a lot of the results. But only one kelt managed to pass the dam before May 1st. And in this figure, we have 2 different areas which are just upstream of the dam, quite close by, and the number of detections from the tags on each day over the study period. And there's a big spike in both areas, shown by that vertical dashed line, on May 1st. So this is the day that that gate in the dam opens, and there's a lot more swimming activity, a lot more presence right in front of the dam. So the kelts have clearly noticed that something has changed, and they're trying to find a way past. And 75% of our kelts then passed on that first day or the second day. So they were able to notice the change in hydraulic conditions and move past the dam. And so we're working on sort of describing the passage efficiency and the timing that the kelts pass the dam. And we're also working on developing an understanding of how the different hydraulic conditions affect swimming speed, swimming depth, and the way the kelts sort of orient themselves in the water column as they're migrating. But this work is sort of ongoing. And so I'll just quickly conclude. Like I've already said, kelts have potentially a high conservation value. They can be quite important for population resilience, but they can be negatively impacted by hydropower in ways that we're just starting to understand. And so learning more about their swimming behavior in regulated rivers should be a priority. And that's everything I plan to say, so thank you for your attention.